All right, the last thing in this section dealing with waves that we are going to be dealing with is what we call sound characteristics. Now, musical instruments are based upon physics. It's all based upon frequencies. In fact, this little chart here below the list of things we're going to talk about gets into what we've dealt with the sound so far. The loudness of a sound is what we call the intensity. That was the decibels that we were dealing with. The pitch is the frequency, so how high or low something is the high frequency or low frequency of the wave. And the quality are the harmonics, which we just dealt with before. And when I say quality, it's like the smooth sound, if you will. So the last one we're going to talk about are the chords and the changes in notes and how we are perceiving them as human beings. Again, it comes down to physics. There are ratios of frequencies for each of these scenarios. Now, I have included, and you might want to take a listen to this, particularly if you're not musically inclined, as to how these ratios have an effect upon music chords that you may take for granted. They're all pretty easy to figure out as far as ratios, but the instruments and how long they are, as far as how they're designed, how wide they are, what they're made of, all relates to creating these ratios of notes that are fitting the tone of the music or the key of the piece of music that you're dealing with. Most of the background, shall we say, of heavy music pieces are chords, whether it's guitar chords or chords of a brass section or whatever. It's an important aspect to allowing the front instruments, the lead instruments, to create a pattern of notes with this chord in the background. And so this is real important stuff in that respect. So the major chords is a very simple 4 to 5 to 6 ratio. Minor chords 10 to 12 to 15. Now the thing about that is that 10 to 12 is the same as 5 to 6. And then if they had a 4 to 5 to 6, then that would be an 8 to 12. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, if the next note, if we went with that, 3, 3, 3, that would be an 18 right here. Now that brings up the minor seventh. I'm going to jump past the diminished chords. I'll be right back with it. But the minor seventh is instead of an absolute octave change for the fourth note, which is what most fourth notes in a chord are going to be, this actually misses it by a little bit. And so I think that would be a 10 to 12 to 15 to 20 ratio. And this is 10 to 12 to 15 to 18. So you hear a bit of a difference. And again, I've attached pieces of videos, very short videos, that have examples of all of these. And then the major 7, 8 to 10 to 12 to 15, which is kind of the same as a minor chord, except for something in front. And then the diminished chord, which is really kind of an offbeat thing, but it's used a lot. It is 20 to 24, 29 approximately. Okay? Now, octaves, you want to calculate octaves. If you have like a 100 hertz sound, an octave higher would be 200. An octave lower would be half of the 100, which is 50. So it's double octave up, half octave down. And there's something called beats. You can actually hear wavers, if you will. People who've been in band know that you have to tune your instrument up, and if it's not tuned, you hear a waver. They call those beats. And that is the difference between the two frequencies. Generally, when they're very close to each other, but not in sync exactly, you hear those wavers. And the waver is simply the difference, the subtraction of the 2 hertz. And so the more apart they are, the more beats you're going to hear. And it's kind of disconcerting the more that you hear. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples of this. If a note has a frequency of 280 hertz, what would be the frequencies of the next two notes of a major chord? Okay, so in that chart that I gave you, a major chord is 4 to 5 to 6. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide 4 into each of these two right here, including this right here. We're going to 1, then 5 fourths to 6 fourths. And this turns out to be, when you divide this out, 1 to 1.25 to 1.5. And so what we do here is we put the 280 hertz in right here. And then multiply that by 1.25 there. Well, a quarter of that is 70, so add 70 to that, you get 350 hertz. And then the next one, you take half of that, which is 140. 140 plus 280 is 200 or 420 hertz. Sorry. And so that's what you're going to get for a major chord, which you start with 280 hertz. Okay? If the note of a diminished chord is 255 hertz, what would be the frequencies of the next two notes? Well, for the diminished chord, we said the ratio is approximately, we're going to go with it, 20 to 24 to 29. And again, we're going to divide each of these by 20. So that's going to be 1 to 24 over 20 to 29 over 20. And this can be brought down to 1.2, and this can be changed to 1.45. So we take 255. The first one will be, of course, 255 hertz, but the one after that is the 255 hertz times 1.2, and that's going to give us 306 hertz. And then the next one is 255 hertz times 1.45. That one I can't do in my head real fast, so I'll just bring up my trusty calculator. Take 255 times 1.45, and I get 370 hertz. So the next two notes will have these frequencies to give us our diminished chord that we're looking at there. The last one, two flutes play a note simultaneously, one at 301 hertz, the other at 306 hertz. What will an observer hear? Well, they're not going to be in sync, and if you subtract the two, they're going to be off by 5 hertz. So you're going to hear 5 wavers a second, or 5 beats per second, also known as 5 hertz. But you're going to hear a wave, I would say a waver of 5 hertz, or just 5 beats per second. All right? Practice problems. At the end of the script, we have these examples of the chords and the other things that we talked about. Have fun!